Everybody, welcome back to the Circle of Knowledge podcast. This is your host, Jon Kovach Jr., founder of Champion Circle Networking Association, based out of Salt Lake City, Utah, as well as a global speaker mastermind leader and so much more. But I am really excited today to interview an individual who I've been able to connect through the awesome world of Podmatch. He's a respected speaker. He's a mentor. He's a business. He's a lot of things. He's amazing. His bio is like 3 pages long. It's awesome. But before I introduce our special guest, I just want to remind everyone and thank everyone for the absolute awesome support we've been receiving for the 13 Steps to Riches book series based on Napoleon Hill's work in 1937, Think and Grow Rich. We, through the help and through the creation of Eric Swanson and the Habitude Warrior community, we've created a book series, a 13-volume book series on the 13 Steps to Riches. We are currently on book number 6, coming out in May, on the principles of organized planning. We've actually brought in a celebrity guest to write with that one. Her name is Marie Diamond, baby. Marie Diamond from The Secret, featured on The Secret and so many more things. She's a feng shui artist and expert, and she's just incredible at what she does. We're really pumped for that book to go launch and to be excited about that. Also, just to share a few things on the progress of that report and everything going on right now, is that we've been able to do Barnes & Noble book signings all over the country, but we've been focusing our area and our expertise over in what we like to call sunny San Diego, and it's been just a joy. So thank you for your support, thank you for your purchases, and also just thank you for reading the book, because we believe that the stories contributing by all of the co-authors has been a phenomenal experience, and it's also changing lives through the inspiration that they share. All right, well, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest for today, and someone who I'd like to introduce and also just get to know, because this person has had a world of experience. And I think you're going to enjoy this, because I think there's just a lot of information to be had and some great jokes and some good conversation. E.A. Csolkovits is the founder and patriarch of GIVERS University and the author of a 3-book series called Give to Be Great. He was born in Chicago, Illinois, and came from humble beginnings, but I'll let him tell his own story, and we'll get into that as I interview him a little bit. But I'm really excited for you guys to get to know this awesome individual. So, EA, thank you for joining me on the Circle of Knowledge podcast.
Thank you, Jon, for having me on your great show. And, I appreciate you saying the length of my bio, but it's still not as long as my last name. So I better get to work. None of this part-time stuff. And as a side note, I want to mention, before the show, we were talking a little bit about snow skiing, and it brought to mind a story I'll never forget as long as I live. I was skiing. One is in Utah, which obviously you guys have some of the best skiing in the world, but we were skiing somewhere else, and I was with my older brother. And we always did this thing where we would see one of us going down the hill, and we did it ice skating and also snow skiing, where if one of the brothers was standing there, the other one would deliberately wait and then go at him full speed, turn the ski sideways, and just try to bury him with snow, right? When you turn sideways. Right. I didn't know. And by the way, this is early in the morning on like a Saturday morning. The hill is empty. It's only him and myself, just the two of us on the entire hill. I didn't know when he got about halfway down the hill that he was standing on a sheet of ice. So I tucked and I went right at him full speed, turned those skis sideways on the ice, gained speed, and hit him so hard I knocked him out of his skis. And for the next 2 years, he referred to me as the brother who hit him on the snow hill when there was no one else on the entire hill. I literally knocked him out of his skis. So there you go. Screwing around. It's all fun until someone gets their eye poked out, right? But anyway, so just a funny story. So we're talking about skiing, and it brought to mind just me busting my brother out of his snow skis at full, breakneck speed. So anyway, great time nonetheless. No one was hurt, and we all laughed it off. And I was humiliated for the next 2 years as he referred to me as such. So thank you for having me on your show, Jon.
You're welcome. And that nickname he gave you is almost as long as your last name too. So
it just happens. I don't know how. It's just crazy.
Well, I'd love to pass the mic over, and could you tell us or give us a little bit of background on just how you got started?
For sure. Happy to do so. I live in Michigan now, but I was originally from Chicago area, Chicagoland. And my father was a milkman, and back then milk came in glass gallons. and everyone had a little box outside their house that was called the milkman box, right? And
right.
and I would get up and would help my father at, when I was 5 years old. He had his own truck for Twin Oaks Dairy, and and it was his own little business, if you will. He had his own route and his own truck, and he delivered milk for this dairy, and so I have great memories of that. And then at 16 years old, John, I took my first step into becoming successful, and I became a janitor. Now, I didn't mind being a janitor because business was always picking up. What?
That's right.
Anyway, so here I was at 16, and I did have two extraordinary events happen to me when I was 16 years old. The first one was, since at that age I was able to be bonded, which means insured. So if my buffer, as a janitor, hit some piece of equipment, the insurance company would pay for it. It also allowed me to be in expensive businesses and expensive homes. And every single week I was cleaning a home. And I want you to know, this is nothing to sneeze at. This is important stuff. So I was cleaning this lady's house. And when I say her name, it won't mean anything to anyone until I make the movie reference, and then they'll know who I'm talking about if they've seen the movie. The lady, her name was June Martino, and every single Wednesday I cleaned her house. Now, wondering who she is, there was a movie out a couple of years back. It'll be on for some time because it's actually a pretty good view. It's called The Founder, and it's about McDonald's, and Michael Keaton plays Ray Kroc. And I lived in Oak Brook area. So I witnessed in my lifetime the whole phenomenon, right? And in the movie, Michael Keaton, who's playing Ray Kroc, constantly talks to a lady outside his office, June this, June this, June this, June that, right? She's in the whole movie. That lady, the lady outside his office, is the lady whose house I cleaned every Wednesday.
Wow.
And when I met her, she was already an icon. She already had the third most controlling stock in McDonald's. And did you catch the movie by any chance? Do you have a chance yet?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So there'll be some references then that you'll catch, where he calls it, McDonald's #1, the franchise, if you will. That was in Des Plaines, Illinois. And at the end of my dad's milk route, we drove by that McDonald's every single time. So I watched the number go from, to 1 million hamburgers, 1 million, right? And I'm thinking, that's more hamburgers than I can eat in a day. Wow, that's 1 million hamburgers. Yeah, now it's like such an insignificant number. It doesn't matter, right? But while in June's house, and this was astonishing to me, John, because for some reason, I don't know why, I had this erroneous notion that to be successful, you had to be a jerk. You had to push down people. You had to be me only oriented. You had to be able to squash people at a moment's notice and not care about it. And June Martino was so the opposite. It wasn't even funny. And that was a curiosity to me. I thought, man, she's so approachable and so nice. And it was extraordinary to me. And here I am cleaning this $1 million mansion. She had a full-time maid and butler. And I was there. The janitorial service was there to do the heavier work, like you clean the pool and the garage. And by the way, loved cleaning the garage because I got to sit in at 16 years old and pull out a Rolls Royce, which was like 10 lifetimes of my income, right? And I would go home at night and drive my Rolls Canardly, which, rolls down one hill and can hardly make it up the next. So a little bit different sitting in this huge car. And I thought, man, people really live like this. And she's not like an alien. It seems like even a especially nice lady. I want to mention the movie in the beginning says it's based on a true story. That's true. It's based on a true story. It's not the true story. Ray was not the way he's portrayed in the movie. That's all Hollywood spin to try to make a bad corporate guy kind of thing. Ray wasn't that way at all, But there's many events that are nodded to that actually did take place. One of them, June told me. In fact, one day I was in her house, and this is all comes up to how Givers University even came about. I was in her house cleaning, and I thought, I just got to ask her. So I got up all the courage, shaking in my janitorial boots, because I'm going to go up and talk to the icon, June Martino. And she knew who I was because she said hi to me all the time, so I went up there and said, hi, June. She goes, oh, hi. I was just very approachable. And I said, can I ask you a question? She said, sure. And I said, well, could you tell me about it? She said, well, what's that? And I said, well, the whole McDonald's thing. I'm not kidding, John. She put her arm around me, brought me in the kitchen. The lady in the movie, not that actress, but the lady, the real one, put her arm around me, brought me in the kitchen, and the entire day told me the entire story. And it was interesting because she even started the story where the movie starts, where she worked for Ray when he was Prince Castle selling the milkshake mixer, right? and how he met the brothers, what happened all the way through, literally up to the time we're sitting. She even had the maid and butler bringing us food so she could keep telling us the story. And I'm thinking, who's she talking to? There's just this snot-nosed 16-year-old sitting there across from her. And the whole day she's, telling me the story. And then in the movie, by the way, you'll remember this, there's a reference where June goes to Ray and says, Ray, we got a small problem. We're out of money. And that causes him to call the brothers. They have a little drama scene. I need more percentage. And, Michael Keaton slams down the phone. It didn't happen that way, but the event took place, right? And she told me about that event decades before the movie. And she said, there was no money. So Ray and I made an agreement that I would work for him for nothing, no money. And he would pay me in worthless company stock and worth less than zero. The company stock was worth less than zero. And he would take the bill collector calls if someone called me and wanted money for one of my bills. And so I just asked her, I said, June, why'd you do it? And John, I'm not kidding. She sat back and stared at me and did this eye lock on me. And I could tell she just left the room. I realized right then I inadvertently had just asked her a question no one had ever asked her before. Everyone wanted to know what happened with McDonald's. No one wanted to know why. Yeah. So when I asked her that, she sat back and I could tell she's staring at me. I'm wondering, where am I supposed to look? And she finally, and when she spoke, it made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. And I'll never forget what she said, the way she said it, and my first step and my first thought after, which had a huge, profound impact on my life. When I asked her, and I said, June, I'm the janitor. I work Friday to Friday, paycheck to paycheck. If I don't get my paycheck on Friday, I'm not showing on Saturday. I need that paycheck, right? And so when I asked her, why'd you do it? When she finally came around again, while staring at me the whole time, when she spoke, I'll never forget it. When I said, June, why'd you do it? Why'd you work for nothing? She said to me, because I believed in Ray. And my first thought, John, was, that's it. I need a Ray Kroc. I need to find me a Ray Kroc. It certainly didn't work out too bad for her. I'm cleaning her $1 million mansion, and it was $1 million back then. I don't even know what I don't know. All I know, the only thing I know is I don't know it. Whatever it is, I don't know it. And so I thought, where would I find my Ray Kroc? Where would my Ray Kroc be? And about 2 months later, at the same janitorial service, we got a phone call. My boss sent me over to show carpeting to a man that was opening a diamond store in Chicago. And that man offered me a job. He became the father I never had, even though I had a father. I became the son he never had, even though he had a son. He was my Ray Kroc. And I can share with you, I was very, very blessed that, he came into my life, and the impact he had on me that was so profound. So he became my Ray Kroc. Because of that, I became a huge advocate for mentoring. In my world, if you don't have a mentor, we call that naive. That's what we call it. It's naive. Right. And there's a big difference between a coach and a mentor. A coach can teach us a skill. We needed to learn a thing at one point or another. A mentor is a much more intimate relationship. Why are you thinking that way? Not what you're thinking. Why is that going on? Much closer, much more intimate, much, you share information, much more confidential, if you will. And I can share with you over my life, I've met literally thousands of educated idiots, that have all the book knowledge and it can spew all the information at you, but zero execution and implementation skills. So I share with people, when you're seeking a mentor, first of all, get a mentor. And when you're seeking them, don't be afraid to ask one critical question. And here it is. Can I ask what you've done? Don't be afraid to ask that question. I said, because you want a mentor that's done it. And the reason why, when you have a mentor that's done it, they bring with them, as you know, John, all the things that didn't work. And that's where the wisdom is, the things that didn't work, right? So I'm a huge advocate for mentoring because of my mentor and the huge impact he had on my life. So with that point, he told me a little bit about what it was like to grow up in the Great Depression. And again, it had such an influence on me. It was extraordinary, and and going forward. But also to show you that my mentor was genuinely a puritanical genius, not an educated idiot for sure. He was telling me about what it was like to grow up in the Great Depression in the United States. He said, people were jumping off of buildings because they lost their fortunes, committing suicide. He said, multi-mile long soup kitchen lines, multi-miles to get a bowl of soup. He said, for some of our meals, we actually ate cardboard.
Hmm.
And, that was shocking to me, and he said, one day I was walking around, just sort of burned the clock. He said, that's all he did every day. He just sort of walked around almost zombified. And he said, because everyone was just looking for food. And he went by the shop and there was a guy in there and it was a sewing machine place. And he walked in, there was no one in there other than this man. And in talking with him, he found out that he was the owner of the sewing machine store. He had bought all these sewing machines, just sitting there collecting dust. And he said, yeah, I had let all my employees go because I couldn't afford to keep them. And he said, no one's buying sewing machines. They want food right now. So my mentor said, well, he had this flash in his mind. And he said, well, would you mind if I helped you sell some of these? And the guy said, well, no, what do you have in mind? He said, well, how about if we sell them on payments? He said, because people can't afford to buy a whole sewing machine. He said, how about if we sell them on payments? I'll set it up. We'll split the payments. I'll guarantee you any sewing machines if someone walks. And he said, and maybe I'll help you sell some. And the guy said, man, go for it. No, do it. They're all paid for collecting dust. And I'm the only one. If one moves, that's more than what's moving now. The next thing my mentor did was genius. He put together a flyer that said women to work from home. He told me he never caught up totally with the response because no one was hiring. And the fact that anyone was hiring was incredible. So he put together this way where women could work from their home. He sold them the sewing machine on payments. He gave them the pattern to sew with. He gave them the material to make the clothing, and he guaranteed he would buy the clothing from them, thus guaranteeing their income, which means they could make the payments on the sewing machine and have an income that everyone needed for food and everything else. He didn't end there. When he bought that clothing, he sold it to stores as deep discounted, high quality handmade clothing that store owners then sold to their customers, and all the customers wanted those. John, while people were jumping off of buildings, committing suicide, multi-mile long soup kitchen lines, in 18 months, he earned $1 million. Now that's depression dollars. Now, who knows? It's over 20 million easily today. So he said to me, as a lesson to that, he said, you're going to get tackled 1,000 times in your life. He said, you're going to. He said, you don't drown by falling in the water. You drown by staying there. He said, you got to get out of the pool. He said, but here's something I can share with you. You will never have money problems as long as you live. And I said, what? I said, how can you get tackled now? He goes, you'll never have money problems. He said, you'll have idea problems, but you won't have money problems. He said, every great solution, every great enterprise always began with one idea in one person's mind. He said, so you'll never have money problems. And when you think you do, when times in your life will be lean, and it's going to happen as fortunes come and go, fortunes come and go. He said, remember, you have idea challenges, not money challenges. And I found that to be true. So at 19 years old, I asked this man, finishing off the story, I asked my mentor, Sam, his name was Sam Robbins. I said, Sam, will you teach it all to me? All of it. Don't hold back. I want to know it all. He said, okay, I will. But I want one thing from you. When the time is right, and you will know that time, I want you to teach as many people as you can everything that I taught you. So at 19 years old, John, I made a vow. I made an oath that today has manifested into what we call Givers University. That's how it came about.
The story, the connection, the background, it's phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that. And I would like to inquire more about Givers University, but before we do that, I think it'd be appropriate to ask for the behalf of my audience, which is, what's the difference, or what do you think the difference between a giver and a taker is?
What a great question. And I love that because we genuinely teach a skill, John, that hasn't been taught. I mean, I had a goal to do 200 podcast interviews from April to April, and actually you're like 197, literally. So, I mean, we did it. So I'll be probably at 210 by the end of this month. And then I'm going to back way off on interviews because I hit my goal. And you know what? Not one host has told me, I know someone else that's teaching the same skill. Not one. And we teach a skill, and it's an observation skill. First of all, I share with your listeners, and I say it emphatically, we love everybody. I say it again, we love everybody. And the skill we teach is how to separate the person who we love from their deeds, which we may not love.
Mm.
And by doing that separation, separating the person we love from their deeds, which we may not, and observing what they do, not listening to what they say, because people know how to tickle your ears, but it's an observation skill. Watch them doing these specific deeds. We even train it on checklists. We have one check that's called the 25 do's. It's actually 25 deeds. Watch them doing these 25 things. And from this, you can begin to discern from what you see them doing. Should I bring them closer into my life? And make them a part of your giver community, because givers bring with them the 3 W's of a giver: wisdom, wealth, and wellness. Or by contrast, because of what I see them doing, their deeds, should I begin to respectfully, not rude or nasty, should I begin to respectfully distance myself from them? Because if I bring them closer, they're going to make me collateral damage. So I ask your listeners, think about the fires you stomp out every day. Think about when your stress level goes up every day. You know what they have in common? There's a name attached to them. And if we could learn how to discern, the skill of discernment in our relationships of who we should pull in closer and who we shouldn't. We love everybody. So when we say giver, John, we're not labeling a person. We don't label people. We're labeling and identifying giver deeds, right? When we say taker, we're not labeling a person a taker. It's not like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Taker, no, we're identifying taker deeds, right? So by teaching an observation skill, we teach people, watch what they do. Because one of the sayings we have at Givers University is, your talk talks and your walk talks, but your walk talks louder than your talk talks. So watch what they do, watch their deeds, and we give them checklists, and they can actually go down, put checks on the bottom, total it, and they're already headed down the right path of which people they should be pulling in. Few interviews back, this one guy said, "Wow, I love this giver taker stuff. This is great. I read this book. It said I should have 5 good people around me." I said, "You should. You should have 5 good people." One question: which 5?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he stared at me with, this little orphan Annie eyes look at me. And I said, "Do you see my point? No one's teaching us which 5. John, I know you're a self-improvement geek. I am. I'm sure your listeners are. But no one's teaching us, what if the other guy's doing it wrong? What should I do about that? And if I pull him in my life, now by grenades, I become collateral damage, right? And now my productivity is going down because I'm stomping out fires. My stress level goes up because I didn't know how to discern in advance, what should I watch for? So we teach a skill of observation that helps people, and we actually help teach people how to build that community around them. I got to tell you, it's just been so fun to be able to share with people the actual way. You mentioned something I really like. I'm a huge advocate of Napoleon Hill. Read actually The Laws of Success 30 times from cover to cover. Great. And I'm very much into what you're doing for sure. And when Napoleon Hill talked about the mastermind principle, it certainly was very novel. He does a masterful job explaining it, but he never explains how to do it. He explains what it is. That's what we started teaching. We started at a very granular level, walking people through, here's how you do what Napoleon Hill referenced and explained, the mastermind on steroids. Here's what you do step by step by step. And we actually have 7 steps walking people all the way through, absolutely free. It's on our YouTube channel. This is how you form your own givers community around you. And not only that, as you and I have both seen, people get together, they form a nice mastermind. And then like 2 or 3 months later, it just sort of dissipates. It falls apart, and you wonder, why did it fall apart? They got together, and what happened? So we address those things. What's the glue? Where's the glue missing? And what do you need long-term? So that's really what we teach. And I'd love to be able to share with some of your listeners, if you feel it's appropriate, even in our interview here, to go through those 7 steps of how that actually works.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Excellent. Well, first of all, lay the groundwork. In the last couple of years, I think the word community has changed definitions, because of the COVID craziness, if you will. And demonstrably, I can share. There's a word that's spelled D-I-E-T. It's diet, right? Years ago, if you went to a meeting with 2 or 3 people, that meeting was actually called a diet. You went to a diet, right? Then years later, spelled the same way, if you receive a stipend or a regular allowance, that allowance was called a diet. Then as I grew up in my lifetime, the word diet meant the way I ate every day. My daily eating habits was my daily diet. Now you say diet, it means weight loss, right? All spelled the same way, four totally different meanings.
Wow.
I ask your listeners the following. Have you had this happen? Come join our community. Be a part of our community. We're all the same mind. And when you join, 6 hours later, they're trying to sell you everything under the sun, blowing up your email inbox, everything else. Right? That's not a community. That's a customer hit list.
Yeah.
Call it what it is. I mean, why not just call it a prospect list? Call it what it is. Why are you calling it a community? So I identified those, John, as taker communities because they're designed to take from you money, finances, time, whatever it is. Those are taker communities. By contrast, a giver community is totally different. It's designed for a totally different purpose and a totally different meaning. We use the term junto, Junto. A junto, interchangeable with the word community, simply means when a group of people get together for a common interest or purpose. That group is referred to as a junto, Junto. It's a Spanish word, dates back to 1600s. Wasn't used much till a gentleman picked it up in the 1700s. His name was Benjamin Franklin. And in 1727, Benjamin Franklin put together a group of 12 friends. They met every Friday night for a couple of hours, and he called this group the Mutual Improvement Club. And they talked about everything, morals, ethics, business, politics, everything across the board. And then later on, he called that group his junto. And then later on, he called it the Leather Apron Club. What's interesting about this club that Ben Franklin started in 1727, John, is our very Declaration of Independence could arguably be traced back to the very conversations Ben Franklin had at his junto. So no one can tell me that 12 people getting together in a spirit of harmony is not powerful.
Yeah.
So we teach people, how do you form these juntos? What do you do? What do you do step by step? And we walk them through that. And as a part of that, to share with you, two things I'd like to share with you that I think are critical to lay the foundation of the junto. Because when we get there, they can get it on YouTube. So I'm just going to sort of bullet it when we get through there to give the outline for people. Two important aspects that are foundations for a good community and a good junto. My mentor shared with me at the ripe old age of 19. He said, let me tell you about this thing called life. I said, okay, this should be interesting. All right. And he said, well, picture in your mind this scale. And on the right side of the scale are all the things you're going to get in your life, all the benefits, the income, the blessings you're going to get, all the things you're going to receive in your life come from the right side of the scale. He said, the left side of the scale is going to be all the things you give. He said, your time, your effort, your investment, your tithing, your charity work, all of the ways you're going to help people. All those things you give will be on the left side. Here's what's interesting about the giver's life scale. It is never out of balance. It strives for balance. And even at a static nanosecond, when it seems like it's out of balance, it writes itself, it's always in balance. He said, now the next thing I tell you will be very difficult for you to do. He said, but once you get your head around it, you will be unstoppable. He said, here's the hard part of the giver scale of life. He said, are you ready? And I said, yep. He said, here it comes. I said, okay. He said, forget about the right side. He said, because everyone goes there. He said, here's what you do. Focus on the left side, this part you're giving. And he said, and since you know in advance the scale's never out of balance, you now make it your daily goal to heave so much on the left side of that scale that your goal is to get the scale out of balance because you've put so much on the left side. And he said, and when you do that, you'll never have to worry about what comes to you from the right side of the scale. And I can share with you, John, that absolutely is factual. And because I was what you call intelligently ignorant, I was just dumb enough to listen to what my mentor said and do what he said. What I'm about ready to say is not to be braggadocious, but it is a point to show that this stuff works as testimony. At 23, I became a millionaire. Why? Not me. It's because I listened to him, someone that had already done it, right? At 33 years old, in 1989 was the first year I earned $1 million in personal income, not business money. That was my personal income. After I paid taxes, I had $1 million in my pocket, right? So was that me? No. It was because I just listened to someone who had done it, and I emulated him, and I asked questions, and I was able to simply say, I don't know about that, but I'd love to learn. Could you please teach me? Today, where everyone is interested in being preeminent, and being the smartest man in the room. And my mentor said, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. Get out of that room. He said, get into a room where you could learn something. There's nothing there. The next story, going into the communities, even today, decades later, I'm astonished at this story. In my mid-30s, John, I'd worked my way up, and we were equal partners. Sam and I were, we were splitting on many, many companies. We were 50-50 partners, 50-50 on income, 50-50 on ownership, et cetera. So, and one day he came to my office, said, EA, I would like to propose that we compete against each other. And I was working, I looked up, and he had that look in his eyes. And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be really, his eyes he had this twinkle that was pretty extraordinary. And I knew something was up, right? And I thought, oh, he wants to compete against each other? And he said, yes, this is what I propose. He said, I propose we compete year by year to see who can make the other one more money. He said, now here's the way the contest works. We compete every year. And if I make you, this is him talking. He said, if I make you more money than you made me, I'm the winner. You're the loser. I get to ask you for anything I want, and you have to buy it. I said, wait, what? I said, okay, wait. Anything? I said, wait, let me make sure I understand this. So, Sam, what you're saying is we're going to compete year by year, see who can make each other one more money. So if you make me more money than I made you, you win, I lose. You get to ask for anything you want, and I have to buy it. He said, that's right. I said, so is the opposite true? And he said, yes. So that means, Sam, we're going to compete, and if I make you more money than you made me, that means that I get to ask for anything, and you have to buy it for me. And he said, yeah, that's right. I'll never forget the sigh. Okay. And I know this is going to be really interesting. The first year, John, he beat me so bad. It was brutal. And that year, he won, I lost. I had to, and I did willingly, pay cash for him for an entire home in Florida. It was brutal. Wow. And I thought, and I couldn't be mad. I had the money. We had, he made me more money. I made him, and I had the money. So, and I thought, man, I got to get smart. This is going to get brutal. I got to. So the next year I did win. And then because of that, he bought me an aircraft, and that's when I became a commercial pilot. And wow. Then the next year I won, and he bought me a limousine, and I had a full-time limo driver. And the next year he bought me another aircraft. I had 2 aircraft. And then we started just moving it on and playing it on, carrying it forward. Then, John, after 4 years, it hit me. It hit me what he had done. Here's what had happened. Because of, and I shared with you in a story that, he literally for some of his meals lived on cardboard during the Depression. Because of the lack of nutrition and malnutrition when he was younger, it took a toll, and he had diabetes and a severe case. His health was deteriorating when I was in my mid-30s. He knew he couldn't keep up with me, right? His schedule-wise and time-wise. I'm 33 years old, and there was no way in the world with his health deteriorating quickly I could put in more time, effort. He just couldn't keep up with my pace. Here's the part. He wanted me to win. He had actually figured out in his mind that my mind could get goofed up because we're splitting everything 50-50, and clearly I can work more at a pace he's not able to. And he didn't want my head to get goofed up. He wanted me to get something every year that he wasn't getting so that my head wouldn't get goofed up. John, I remember thinking, what kind of man comes up with this stuff? What kind of person thinks of something like that, forecasts forward what might happen, crafts this whole thing, comes to me like that? And we called that later on the GIVERS contest intention. Yeah. And I share with you, it's a critical part of how to form your community. So if we can get into the bullets of the 7 steps of forming a community.
Let's do it.
All right. First of all, I share with the listeners. If you go to our YouTube channel, it's Givers University, one word, no spaces. Just go to YouTube, giversuniversity.com or Givers University. And in YouTube, the first channel, the first playlist is how to form your own Givers Junto. It's the first playlist, right? That is 21 2-minute clips walking through in detail everything that I'm going to go through right now in more of a bullet fashion, if you will. So it's a 2-minute clip starting with what's the difference between a giver and taker community? 2 minutes. Step by step by step, all the way through how to form it, all the way into even the agenda. The last 4 episodes are now that you formed your community, what do you do? What do you cover? How do you keep that together? So we even have 4 episodes just devoted to your agenda. This is what you should do and why at each meeting. So it's very detailed, absolutely free. We put it out there because our intention is to make sure that scales out of balance. Every time we get it, we're going to heave so much on that left side, right?
That's right.
I'll never forget this one lady, John. It was so funny at this one event. It was a speaker event, and this gal says, speakers were sort of meet and greet kind of thing. And this lady says, well, you know what? I don't like to give away all my stuff because I'm afraid someone's going to steal it. And of course, at this point in my age, I really don't care what people think of me anymore. It really doesn't matter to me the least bit. And I'm going to be the first one to point out the elephant in the room. So I have to speak up. And I said, you're not going to like what I say next. And I'm going to say it. And you're probably never going to talk to me again. I said, but I have to say it. If you're concerned that people are going to steal your stuff, you need more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, and it just hit her between the eyes, and I was right. She never talked to me again. Anyway, so the 3 kinds. So we teach 3 kinds of Juntos primarily. By the way, there are many, many different kinds of Juntos, many different kinds of communities. We just sort of talk about 3 to give a template for people of some of the differences. We use the term Junto. It's interchangeable with community. And we use 3 examples to teach people. And again, this is all template, so they can use it for any group that they want to. Anything, we just want to get it out there and show people this is what Napoleon Hill was talking about. He said what it was, and it works. But here's how you do it, step by step, very granular, right? I'd love to, by the way, participate and insert this in one of your books because I think it's so critical with people how to do this. And if you ever wanted me to help, I'm right there, man. So I just wanted to mention because I was very proud of you with you saying you're on book number 6, and I think people should pick those up and read them for sure. So the 3 kinds of Junto real quick. We have first what we call the GIVERS Greater Junto. This is a Junto of any size worldwide, no matter how big. Good example, Salvation Army, VFW, Lions Club. Those would be good examples. They have chapters, etc. Those would be GIVERS Greater Juntos. A GIVERS Insider Junto is 2 to 12 members. A much smaller, more confidential, more intimate group. A good example would be Ben Franklin's Leather Apron Club. That's a great example of an insider Junto, right? The next is a GIVERS Millionaire Junto. This is a Junto of 2 to 12 vetted millionaires who are all getting together for a common purpose. A good example of this was 1915. Henry Ford formed a Millionaires Junto. It consisted of him, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, the inventor, Harvey Firestone from Firestone Tires, and John Barrows, who was a writer, a poet, and he was also a federal bank examiner, so he must have been the money guy. But anyway, so the 4 of them, and Henry Ford gave them their group a name. He called them the 4 Vagabonds, and they even traveled together. Now, does this work? I had a Millionaire Junto with my partner, my business partner, my mentor, 2 to 12 members, him and I, right? Because it's true what Napoleon Hill says, wherever 2 or more minds form together in a spirit of harmony, a third mind is formed. That's accurate, right? In the most positive sense, and unfortunately in the most negative sense as well. It works both ways, and that's why we have to be careful about who we have around us, right? So to get into the 7 steps of building your own GIVERS Junto, it spells the word discern. It's an acronym, DISCERN. Again, is on our YouTube channel. Look for the playlist, How to Build Your Own GIVERS Community. 2-minute clips, 21 2-minute clips in orders of what to do. The D stands for decide. The first thing you want to do when you're going to form a community is you have to decide, who do I want in my community? And why? How do I even decide, sort of like I said before, which 5, right? So, and we have a checklist that we actually help people decide which 5 as an example, right? How do you decide who you should have as a part of your community? What should you be watching for? The I is for invite. How do you invite them? What do you say to them? How do you invite them into your GIVERS Junto, right? The S stands for seed. This is critical. The S is the expectational agreements that are critical that you simply say to them. Our members of our Junto have all agreed to hold each one of ourselves accountable to these expectational agreements. We expect these things. We all agree and expect upfront to hold ourselves accountable to these expectational agreements. This is critical because now you have an agreement before you allow them and have them come into your group, before you accept them. These are the agreements up front we agree to, and we're telling, and if they don't work for you, no problem. God bless you. We love you. It's just not a good fit, right? So we teach, as an example, the 3 pillars and the 1 giver's intention as a part of the seeding. Again, these are templates, John, that people can use.
Right.
If someone wants to form a giver's junto, this would be an example. The 3 pillars are, number 1, the credo. And our credo is give to be great. You can be great by giving. You don't have to be a taker. Number 2, our pledge. Our pledge is to help every giver's junto member lead a life of predictive, massive, and exceptional happiness, freedom, and greatness. Our 3rd pillar is our labor of love. Every junto should have a work that's greater than themselves. Ours, we're actually launching this coming fall, and our labor of love is we have figured out exactly how to put an end to hunger 1 zip code at a time. And we're actually launching that this coming fall. That's our labor of love. So 3 pillars: credo, pledge, labor of love. The giver's contest intention is the 1 intention, and that's the contest I shared with you regarding my mentor, myself. That every mentor, now think about this for a minute. If you had 12 members in your junto, what if all of those members were all competing, like my mentor and I did, to contribute more to the group than they could ever possibly hope to get back? In fact, we have all the members agree expectationally up front that that's part of what they will be accountable for, and all of us will. John, what if you had a group of 12 people and all the other 11 were all competing to give more to you than they could ever get back, and you were doing the same with them?
That'd be awesome. That'd be phenomenal.
It would be unspeakable, the power that could even come out of that group, right? So when it's set up right from expectationals, and it's so critical that from the very setting up. So S is for seed. C, convene. Convene, get together on a regular basis, weekly, monthly, just on a regular basis, convene. That's the C. E, establish. Give it a name. Ben Franklin, Leather Apron Club. Henry Ford, Four Vagabonds. When you establish it, E, establish it, give it a name, it creates an amount of camaraderie with the entire group. They're part of a thing. And the last 2 are rotate. Different chair member, every single meeting, rotate around the room, always a different chair. And N is for numbers. Seed other juntos, not so you get more resources, so you can give more to other groups. So again, decide, invite, seed, convene, establish, rotate, and numbers. All that's on our YouTube channel, 21 2-minute clips from beginning all the way through. Form your givers community. There's very few things that will impact our lives more than our relationships.
Man, fantastic. And I put the link here on the bottom of the screen to learn more, to get in contact with you guys, is to go to Givers University or to check out the Givers University. You said one word. That's awesome on YouTube. I'm excited. I encourage all of my subscribers to go and to subscribe to this, to learn, to jump in, because something that I didn't pre-explain to you before, but we talk about these mastermind methods. We talk about the methodologies and the different ways and the different understandings, but also how to delve deeper into the aspect of giving. And I really appreciate you bringing that to the realization and also to a measurable thing. I will admit that very, very few, and if not anybody on my show or any of the shows that we've talked about, have talked about how to be better at giving, how to be a part of that process. So I thank you for that, EA. And that was a very enlightening experience for both me and my listeners to go through. And I appreciate the measurable acronyms and the steps to accomplish these things. That was absolutely awesome.
Thank you. My pleasure. I happy to be able to share. We want to be able to share with your listeners the 25 do's checklist. Simplest, fastest way to get that, go to our website that you put on there, giversuniversity.com. They're going to see a place to sign up for our newsletter. It's absolutely free. We don't spam. So the moment they sign up, they're getting an email that says, do you want to talk to Givers University? If they don't respond to that, they will get no further communications from us. They have to say yes. And when they do, then 2 hours later, they're going to get that checklist, the 25 do's, the 25 deeds in a download. We want to print it off, put it in your pocket. It helps you in business, socially, and even with your family. It's a checklist of how to decide who you should bring close and who you should be respectfully distancing. And then once a week on Thursday morning, we send out a 5-minute read. It's called the Giver's Toolbox, a brand new tool every week they can add into the relationship toolbox. I hate it. You sign up for something, they're blowing up your email, and you get 6 emails a day, and I go unsubscribe. So 1 email a week, Thursday morning, 5-minute read called the Giver's Toolbox to help them with their relationships and give them tools that maybe they didn't know. And then from that, they learn about Givers University. We have online courses. We have books and publications, and the Give to Be Great series, which consists of 3 books and 3 courses. They learn all of that just through the course of it. And then we also feature our podcast interviews that we do that are on there as well, where they can clip on and see the most. And certainly we'll have yours on there as well, John. We look forward to sharing it with all of our subscribers. So that's the easiest way. Get the 25 do's, get the checklist, and we're happy to help you and have you surround yourself with more givers in your life.
Wonderful. EA, thank you for your time on today's podcast, and thank you for being a guest and for sharing the awesome principles that you do. I'm an advocate for what you do and what you provide to the world, and I hope that my listeners will take advantage of this. As a guest on our podcast and having shared these awesome insights and these resources, if you're listening to this on the audio version, you can access these resources in the show notes of our podcast. And without any further ado and without anything else, I want to thank you again, EA, for just your time and for what you shared. And I want to remind my listeners, too, that, again, everything is in the show notes. Go check them out, giversuniversity.com, or go to Givers University on YouTube. And also just remember that everything you need is within you now. It is time to take the immediate action that will allow you to achieve the things that you've been sitting on for quite some time. It is that time now, and I appreciate you, EA. That was an awesome episode. I am so grateful for your time.
Thank you. And then as we say at Givers University, don't have a good day. Have your best day ever.
That's awesome. Thank you.